This video in particular involves what I probably struggled with the most in leveling up and being able to claim some power for myself, some inner peace, and to not just get caught up in this outlook that life sucks. This is where I really leveled up. So check it out. The guilt, shame, and remorse cycle is a psychological pattern that can greatly impact an individual's emotional well-being and behavior. This cycle often perpetuates itself, making it challenging for someone to break free without conscious effort or professional help. Here's how each component typically plays out. Guilt. This emotion arises when someone believes they have done something wrong, violating their own moral or ethical standards. It is typically associated with a specific act or omission and involves a cognitive recognition of having harmed someone else, either emotionally or physically. Shame. While guilt is about the action, shame is about the self. Shame emerges when the individual internalizes guilt to reflect on their entire self, leading to the feelings like, I am bad, or I am unworthy. Unlike guilt, which might motivate someone to make amends, shame can feel more paralyzing and is associated with a sense of exposure and vulnerability. And then comes the remorse. This is the feeling of deep regret or sadness for having done something wrong. Remorse often accompanies guilt and can motivate a person to take corrective actions. However, when intertwined with shame, the feeling of remorse can exacerbate the emotional burden as it involves not only regretting the action, but also feeling profoundly sorry for the negative view of the self that has been reinforced by the action. So here are the cycle dynamics. The cycle can become self-sustaining because actions taken from a place of shame often fail to resolve the underlying issues or feelings. For example, someone might apologize excessively without addressing the behavior that caused the guilt, or they might withdraw and isolate themselves, which prevents genuine reconciliation and healing. Each episode of guilt can deepen the feelings of shame, and without effective strategies to break the cycle, a person can become trapped in a loop of negative self-evaluation and emotional pain. So we gotta break the cycle. Effective ways to break this cycle: self-compassion and forgiveness. Learning to forgive oneself and practicing self-compassion can help shift the focus from shame to constructive change. Therapy. Professional help is an option, can provide strategies to understand and separate feelings of guilt from shame and to deal with each constructively. Open communication. Discussing feelings openly with trusted individuals can reduce the burden of shame and promote understanding and support. Mindfulness and reflection. Engaging in mindfulness practices and reflective journaling can help individuals process their emotions more healthily and regain a sense of worth and control. Understanding and addressing each aspect of this cycle is crucial for emotional healing and for the healthy development of personal and interpersonal dynamics. Positive feedback loop. Cycles of shame are repetitive patterns of feeling, thought, and behavior that reinforce feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness in individuals. These cycles can be deeply ingrained and difficult to break, often contributing to long-term emotional distress and interpersonal difficulties. Understanding the components of these cycles can help in addressing and ultimately breaking them. 1. You have the triggering event. A cycle of shame often begins with the trigger, an event, interaction, or even an internal thought that brings about feelings of shame. This could be a perceived failure, a critical remark from someone else, or even a memory of a past incident. 2. Intense emotional response. The trigger leads to an intense emotional response. The individual feels humiliated, deeply flawed, or unworthy. Unlike guilt, which focuses on specific actions, shame affects the individual's entire sense of self. 3. Withdrawal or hiding. In response to this overwhelming emotion, the person may withdraw from social situations or try to hide aspects of themselves that they believe are unworthy or unacceptable. This isolation can prevent them from receiving external perspectives or support that might counteract their negative self-perception. And the 4, self-criticism and rumination. Isolated and inwardly focused, the individual may engage in negative self-talk and rumination, reinforcing their feelings of shame. They dwell on their perceived shortcomings and failures, which exacerbates their negative self-image. 5, avoidance behaviors. To avoid further shame, individuals often adopt avoidance behaviors. They might steer clear of situations where they feel at risk of exposure or failure, or they might overcompensate by attempting to be flawless in other areas. I absolutely relate to that. This behavior can limit personal growth and opportunities for positive experiences. It feels so good to get over all that stuff. I'm telling you, I'm living in a different world now. I hope you join me. 6, reinforcement of shameful identity. Each cycle reinforces the individual's belief in their inherent unworthiness, embedding the shame deeper within their identity. The belief that they are fundamentally flawed becomes more ingrained, making it harder to challenge or change. So I welcome you to share my belief for a second. If you don't believe it, that's okay. If you could believe that I believe it, and that you could possibly change your belief, that we can start somewhere. I believe that all my friends that killed themselves, all my friends that committed suicide, all my friends that wanted to quit living, all went through this cycle of living. A lot of it was from substance abuse. Some of them had military careers. Some of them went through deep traumas, and they coped in different ways. They had avoidance behaviors, ultimately leading to their death. Yeah, suicide's like the leading cause of death for like most people, because most people are young people, and young people don't die naturally unless it's trauma. But we're not even getting sick yet. We're just sick up here, and it's all from a limited perspective. It's all from feelings of inadequacy, that things can't change, that this is permanent, that this is just the way life is. And I promise you, the one promise that I will make in this course is that life isn't as it seems. It will always change based on your perspective. There is no such thing as the truth. The truth is so vast and massive that our human senses cannot. We're only seeing like 0.5% of the light spectrum. We can only hear a certain level of sound. Like 99.5% of everything, based on that, right? Like over 99% of what's happening right now in between the camera and my hand, we don't even know. This energy that's moving out here, our senses don't allow us to see it. The reticular activating system blocks all that out. It looks for pattern recognition. It looks for similarities, and it creates this nice, comfortable world where we can now, if you could just see energy all the time and you couldn't like look that far, I mean, like, you wouldn't be able to see a predator coming. So there's like good biological survival mechanisms here that are, everything is the way it is because it's helpful. When we get locked in on that shame, we give up our power. Identifying is one of the hardest things to do, and you see that in society right now where people are in a beautiful way becoming whatever they want to be. They're identifying as whatever it is they want, and that is amazing because that is the beginning of this change. It's just interesting that at the same time, many people that change their identity still have that underlying identity of shame. So, I challenge you to change your perspective and allow yourself to think, maybe I don't know everything. Because that's like the general outcome is like, if you feel like you know what's going on, then you know everything. You couldn't know what's going on. If you don't know everything, then you say, I don't know what's going on. That would be the realest thing you could say. You got Dunning-Kruger effect, where like the smartest people in the world realize like, damn, I don't know anything. And you got like people that don't know much about stuff, they get told like a couple things. Like H2O being water. If you look up the 4th Phase of Water book, there's a guy that has a TED Talk that talks about how water is conscious, living, and intelligent, and it forms this gel-like substance, and there's like different kinds of water out there we don't even know about. But when we live in this closed-minded world of I've got things figured out, you don't allow change to happen. You don't allow beliefs to grow into new perspectives. And we should always be evolving into, what are my goals? How can these new goals be met with a new perspective? What perspectives are required to be the beneficial propulsion to that goal? You have a new goal, you have a set of beliefs to get there. I want more than anything, if the only thing you could get out of this whole course is to have a feeling that you can change and that life isn't hopeless, that this isn't the obvious thing that makes sense, is I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to end this. I feel like the world would be better off without me, and therefore I'm going to take my own life. And I've attempted to do that 3 or 4 times. I've been locked in psych hospitals. I have experienced what it's like to feel that deep level of hate for yourself, to like beat yourself up and to wish you could be different, but just to know that you're just this fuck up, and it sucks. It really sucks. However, that's the most beautiful thing, because if being the person you're being hurts that much, it's time to jump in the proverbial fire. It's time to, how the Christ is resurrected and reborn, you become this new person. How the phoenix rises from the ashes. These are all forms of rebirth. You don't have to continue living this way. You can change by taking a little action, and it all begins with desire, which is funny because we talk about desire in its negative form, but there's positive. There's positives to all these emotions, except shame. Shame is the one emotion that we can leave behind. It's good to feel guilty if you're not doing what you need to be doing. You should feel guilty. That should be the bottom barrier, like, ow, I'm guilty, I should not do that. But shame, that's an installed program, I believe, to separate us from God and to make us feel like we're not worthy, to make us feel like this beautiful world out there we're not connected to, which would be the opposite of rising in spiritual consciousness, where you feel more and more connected. So by having the shame, it's like the ultimate form of separation from everything that is, because we're all the same thing. We're all consciousness. Consciousness is experiencing itself. We could go into different spiritual or religious beliefs, but at the end of the day, there's something greater out there that we're all connected to. But if you're living in shame, you lose that connection. And I'm here to help reconnect you.